Our guests are just cracking up here. They're wondering, who are these mad people?
They're wondering,
who are these
best
mad
choir?
people? Yeah.
This is the best choir.
Hire these
Courtesy
people.
of Safaricom.
Hey, Bob, call him Atatu Chapa.
I'm telling you.
Atatu Chapa,
But they're
personally.
almost signing us up, man. They're almost signing us up.
All right. Okay, how do you switch from this to a very serious subject? And we're talking human trafficking here, Jalas. Very serious subject, and it's still happening to this day in all forms and shapes, and it's a worldwide phenomenon, and it's very, very it's still happening. So here we want to talk about it with Anyango Mpinga. She is a designer, and the line is called Anyango Mpinga. And that's her line. And Sophie Otiende, programs coordinator of Heart Kenya, coming to talk about how fashion can be used as a medium to campaign against human trafficking.
That's what I really, really want to hear about, because fashion,
human trafficking, what's the connection?
It's really for wider part.
Ladies, welcome to Hot 96.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks.
You don't think we're that crazy, do you? I mean,
No, we seem crazier. Sure.
Trust us.
But it was a great start.
yeah. Oh, well, thank you.
Yes.
You guys are fine?
Yes, we're doing good.
You think Safaricom will sign us on?
Not with those voices.
Yeah.
We are doing.
A bit of auto-tune,
we've
Togo,
gone past being signed. Right? You can't sign a platinum kind of voice. You can't sign platinum.
No.
You already signed. Welcome, guys, to Hot 96.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So
Very beautiful conversation we guys want to have. How long have you been in this, designer?
I like to call myself a social activist, and one of the things about my brand is that it's a slow fashion brand. And slow fashion just means being more conscious about the supply chain within the fashion industry. The biggest connection, actually the connection between human trafficking within the fashion industry is bigger than we all imagine. When you think about all the factories that use child labor and slave labor, these are some of the fast fashion companies within their manufacturing. This is where it comes in, where as a conscious fashion designer, you really need to speak up. And one of the things for me is always raising the question of who made your clothes? Because you might blindly go into a shop and buy something. But, sometimes, and cheap is expensive. And the expense is a human cost, basically. If you're going into a shop and you're going to buy something for 500 shillings, chances are the worker that made that one garment was paid 10 shillings. And if they're paid 10 shillings to make it, you can imagine how they're living, right? Or, in that case, maybe even a child was used to make something.
But Anyango, whoever thinks of that? Whoever thinks of that? I walked into a...
Well, this is the thing. We need to start thinking about it, because the way in which you're consuming fashion, I mean, it might sound counterintuitive because I'm a designer and my work is to sell dreams to people. But at the same time, it's actually good to be conscious about what's happening within the supply chain and start asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Because all these things are existing even in the society we live in today, and it's modern slavery. And I feel like if someone doesn't talk about it, then what are we doing as a
Do you
society?
think at that point then people start rethinking that now I've walked into a chips shop?
Chips.
You understand? Chips ni 30 bob.
Yes.
So if chips is 30 bob, uko Oshago kuna mtu alitumiwa, mtoto alienda shamba nini things. Don't you think people start thinking like that?
Well, they should.
We should.
They should.
We should, eh?
Yeah.
We should, because the thing is, at the end of the day, we are more connected than we think. And the truth is, if you don't think about it, it means you don't care about the person who's next to you. And the truth is, there is a cost. The reason why industries are failing, even in Africa, is that as a result of us not thinking that because you're paying less, that farmer is not going to get what they're supposed to get. And essentially, that farmer will be forced to abuse someone for labor to ensure that you eat chips
for 30 bob.
For 30 bob.
But guys, let's face it. Nobody thinks this way.
But
we
now they'll
should.
start.
They'll start
Well,
thinking.
I'm hoping they'll start.
Yeah.
They won't, because that's how this human nature. Nobody cares where that
Because
chips came from. That
somebody walks in,
potato.
I don't think it's true. Nobody cares.
Sophie,
we are here caring.
Exactly.
That's two of you against the
and,
world.
and many other people.
The entire world. Some people in the world think, care about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of people
There's
who care
a
about
movement.
it.
There's a
movement, and we are here
Which
to
movement
recruit
is
you.
this?
We are here to recruit you
To start thinking
to start
otherwise?
thinking.
Yes.
I see, when I walk into the shop that I bought
just
this
asked,
shirt,
How much is this shirt?
who made the,
Who made this shirt?
Yes.
Yes. Have you heard of Fashion Revolution?
Tell us about it.
You haven't heard Fashion
Oh, bro,
Revolution.
tell us about it.
So Fashion
This is what
Revolution.
sisters of mine, yeah. Now, have you started seeing the way my sisters are thinking?
Yes.
Join the revolution. Saitan. Okay.
You need to join it.
What revolution is this?
Yeah.
So Fashion Revolution started after Rana Plaza. This was a factory that that collapsed in Bangladesh, and a lot of workers who were working under very bad conditions died in that. So there's a group that started this Fashion Revolution, which happens every year in April, to commemorate just the lives that were lost, and also to bring a challenge to all the big factories that are using servitude and are using slave labor within their factories, And the world is actually waking up. When I sell some of my clothes, I'm a slow fashion brand. If I'm going to a buyer from a boutique, they'll always ask me, who made your clothes? Are they certified? Before we put it in our stores. So people out there are starting to actually think about it and demand better.
Even here in Kenya.
So definitely, and it's most industries. If you look even at the flower industry, if you look at the tea industry, if you look at chocolate, go into the supermarket right now, they're actually fair trade chocolates. And when you look at fair trade chocolate, basically it means that these people are certified that within their supply chain, there wasn't forced labor. There's a movement that is growing, and it's more of a concern.
Wow. Now I get you.
Yeah.
You remember the other day I was hosting this event called the Fair Trade?
Yes, fair trade.
Understand? And we had people from all over the world coming in at Safari Park.
Yes.
And they were telling me that anytime you walk into any supermarket, before you pick anything, check if they have the Fair Trade
Stamp.
Yeah.
Is it the same
Sort of
thing?
It's the same.
alongside the
It's-
KEB stamp, which is, the
Yeah.
local
Yes.
one.
It's the local
Yeah.
one.
Fair trade
Fair trade. That
And-
there isn't a human cost.
to that
It's
production.
That
to
production.
the
So let's say
production.
in Ghana or Ivory Coast, where they picking that cocoa or cacao to turn into chocolate, they make sure that it's not kids doing this.
It's not kids doing it, and secondly, that people are being paid what they're supposed to be paid. And if we do this, then it means everyone gets to win.
But you people are being too idealistic, you know that.
There's nothing
being
wrong with
too
being
idealistic.
There's nothing wrong.
being
The world has
idealistic.
been transformed by people who've had ridiculous dreams.
Yes,
I
Yes.
like that.
absolutely.
I like that.
Absolutely.
So how does human trafficking meet fashion, Sophie? Explain.
So, apart from the supply chain, there's internal trafficking. And I tell people all the time, it's so easy to talk about the big companies, but we can bring it back home. When I ask many people, how many people lived with a relative who was there on the same age as them, was taking care of them, but was not going to school and was not being paid, or the money was being paid to their family back home. And usually in most rooms, almost 3/4 will raise up their hand.
But they were being fed, right?
But that's not the point.
That's not the point.
And this
So-
is the problem. Why? It's so normalized in our society.
Abuse is normalized in our society.
Why are you talking
It
about
is.
me?
It is. Abuse.
Have you guys been sent here to haunt me?
No, so there are internal trafficking.
Yes.
And I'm saying this because when you talk about that, we don't consciously think about these things. I was in a house with my cousins for a whole year where I was being abused. I was being physically, psychologically, and sexually abused in the house. My cousins didn't know about it.
By their father or your uncle.
Not by the uncle, but we live in big. If you come from our families, relatives, you have like 5 uncles living in the same house.
Yeah.
It was happening. No one knew.
And nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
And you suffered in silence.
And yes, I did, and it took a miracle. And for me to be able to stand, the reason why I'm passionate is because there are so many girls, there are so many children out there who could be talking to you guys right now, but cannot do it because we've decided we'll normalize abuse. You think giving someone a roof over their head and food is enough to excuse the abuse that you're imposing on them. A child shouldn't have to work. A child should be in school. We should be growing the potential of children, not using them for labor. If you need a maid, you can pay one and pay them the right price. If you can't do it, then please figure out how to do housework in your house, because we need to figure out what is the real cost of things, because we've normalized abuse in this community and it's not okay.
Well, okay, let me ask you this question. So, Jalango gets a job in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
as the new ambassador.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, son of a carpenter. Jesus Christ, son of a carpenter.
Right, he's the new ambassador.
Yes.
He's going there with his family.
Right.
Yes.
Now, he has a little girl, right, his little daughter, and he wants someone to take care of her. And he knows that when he gets to America, help... number one is very expensive, hiring an au pair, a regular au pair. So he brings his cousin from Homer Bay to live with them in America, to take care of the girl essentially. And he doesn't pay her because he has brought her to America. Is that fair?
Absolutely not. Under no conditions is that fair. First of all, you're the ambassador. You should be able to afford labor. Number one. Number two, why are you taking in someone into your house to work for you and not paying them?
But you paid an air ticket, you're paying them housing, you're giving them food.
But
they
they're
should be
human beings.
grateful.
They should be
grateful.
Those are basic rights.
needs. Those are basic rights.
Those are basic rights.
Yes, sorry.
Ambassador, what do you say?
Those are basic rights.
If you're not going to pay them, leave them at home.
As Ambassador Jalango, I want to tell you people, your ideas are good, but not practical.
They're absolutely
very practical.
Let me tell you one thing.
Yes.
Let me tell you one
absolutely
thing.
practical.
Let me tell you what happens, and you people know it. It's a call comes from home, and they say that my son. They'll always call you my son.
Of course.
Your cousin is just here at home. Okay. Has nothing to do or anything. Please, I want them to come and live with you as they help you in Nairobi. When they work for you or when they stay within the house, they'll help you do this and that. While they do this, please be sending us something back here at home as an appreciation for what they are already doing back here at home. So money is sent
to the parents.
To our parents. Listen, stop pointing at me. Where I come from. And she knows it very well. Anyango, you know that women are not allowed to point at me where we come from. So focus. This, the fact that you lived in America with your English should not make you run. Should not make you change our tradition.
No.
You'll point at me later when I'm done. So, at the end of the month,
you're sending money to Homer Bay.
I send money back to
Homer Bay. Na huyu ako hapa nyumbani?
Huyu ako na mimi hapa Nairobi. I feed her. She has a roof on her head.
Akitaka pocket money?
Akitaka ka pocket money kidogo ya hapa na pale. She lives with me almost as family. But instead of her just living with me as family, I'm sending back money to her mom, who is actually even maybe paying some school fees to our other siblings
kids.
back
Okay,
then.
That's human trafficking.
That's human trafficking.
That's human trafficking?
That is human trafficking.
It is human trafficking. It is, first of all, education is free.
Then
If
I'm
you
a
want,
trafficker.
no, education is free.
Yes.
If you want to help someone, if you're saying quote unquote, you want to help someone, please help them by making sure they go to school back at home. Wouldn't that be more effective? And you've said as family, for most people, when you say this, when you ask them, would this be a situation that you would choose for your child? The answer is always no.
So now, this situation now, your cousin comes at home, and they are not helping in any work here at home. all they're doing
is watching soap operas.
Watching soap operas.
Playing
games.
That's not trafficking.
Playing games on my TV. Using my electricity. Then they're just there. If you tell them that, oh, fanya hii kasi, they're only saying that your uncle is being mean.
Look, there's nothing wrong with inviting someone to come to your house, to live there. And, of course, in our society, we all do chores, okay, in the house. But if it's a young person, they should be in school if indeed your intention is to help.
Thank you.
There's just no two ways about it, especially when they're under the age of 18.
Okay. What if above 18?
If they're an adult?
If they're an adult, they need to be it needs to be their decision. If they're coming into your house to help you to earn money, the money is theirs. It should not be sent to someone else, and it should actually be fair. Okay? So if you are going to employ someone today and the salary is, I don't know, 15K, then it shouldn't be less than 15K just because it's a relative who's staying in your house. You understand?
Yeah.
So it's basically it's about justice, and this is a thing. It's so normalized in our society.
Do you know if what you guys are...
It is normalized.
It's so normalized, and this is where the problem is.
If this campaign that you guys are having...
Free as a human.
Yeah.
Free as a human.
Yes.
Takes shape and picks up and it's full flight and everybody is on board. So many people will be sent back to the village.
It's okay.
So many people will be sent back to the village.
Don't you think we need to...
Listen, and when they are sent back to the village, they would wish to be back to your house.
Have you asked them? Has anybody ever taken the time to ask that child who was sent to Nairobi?
It depends on
whether they are actually happy in the conditions that they live in.
It depends on how your villages look like.
I'll say this.
It depends on how your villages look like. You've not been in the deeps in the village.
No, I totally...
You've never been. You go to the village where even 50 shillings to someone
is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And they just ask you, my son, buy me sugar. You buy that sugar.
Aren't we postponing dealing with real issues? Because the truth is,
the real issue that people are broke, people are poor, people want anything.
And we need to face real issues. The truth is, if our country is in a situation where we have deep poverty and all this, we need to address it. We can't start putting elastoplast by using people and thinking that by giving people handouts it's going to work out. Maybe we really need to address issues. Maybe that will be what will lead us to actually demand for social protection system within our country so that everyone can have something. But we'll never face it.
It's a tough call. But you know what?
Crystal Midega says, would like to consume slow fashion and fair labor goods. But for some of us, our entire wardrobe costs as much as one of Anyango Mpinga's items.
I knew that was coming. Because yes, my products are not cheap, and I make no apologies for it. So because there's something for everybody in this market.
Okay, let me say I walk into Anyango Mpinga's naked. Let Anyango dress me.
Please don't walk into my
no. Picture me.
I've seen enough trauma in my life.
Picture me.
Need to be exposed to
No, you don't.
Picture me naked. So let's start with the underwear.
Jalas, we don't want a crime against humanity here.
Yes. Please.
I will again be on an abuse list. Okay, I've showed up with my boxer. Okay.
We'll dress you.
Dress me. We start with my shirt.
I don't make clothes for men, but go ahead.
You don't make clothes for men, Anyango?
No, I only make for women.
But those t-shirts men can wear.
The t-shirts are unisex. Yes.
Free as a human.
Yes.
Okay, so you only make for women.
I only make for women.
Average price for...
Okay, so...
For a garment.
You want to buy Mama...
For Madame.
For Madame something. Mama Jamal something.
Yes.
Jackets.
Not two-piece. Let's say a full dress.
Full dress will cost how much?
Average, you'll be spending around 25K.
Well, that's not too bad.
To 35.
That is not what. Jeff, you are Kitusuru mentality. Do not. You are Kitusuru mentality.
Your shoes alone cost that. What are you talking about?
There you go.
Play the next song. Play the next song.
Your shoes alone.
Play the next song.
Your shoes.
Play the next song.
Am I right?
Yes.
Play the next song.
Angalia, who you?
Money on Nike.
We are coming back.
Play the next song.
I want to talk about your shoes next.
Play the next song.